I am the Namer, guardian of the names of power. Before your world even existed, my people were an ancient race. Now they are gone, and only I remain, keeper of my people's history. Across the endless tracts of space have I traveled, to return to the planet of my birth, Zoidstar. Though my people perished long ago, and their cities were buried by the shifting sands, the machines remain. It is these that have brought me here to perform the last act of the Zoidarian race, the giving of the names of power. When my race was young and had an interest in the affairs of the galaxy, they built the machines, mighty engines of destruction which gave the power of life and death over the other creatures in the galaxy. The Zoidarians turned their gaze outward and laid waste to 1,000 star systems with their machines, their Zoids. But ruling a galaxy was not enough for the Zoidarians. It was not the conquests, but the battles they enjoyed. And though all intelligent life trembled in the shadow of the Zoids, my people battled on, machine against machine, Zoidarian against Zoidarian, in the further pursuit of glory. Zoidarian lives were needlessly sacrificed to the god of battle, and the race dwindled in numbers until the elders outlawed the Zoid duels. But they couldn't outlaw the Zoidarian love of combat. The Zoidarian pilots of the giant war machines were replaced by androids, and thus the heroic combat could continue without threat to Zoidarian life. Too late came the order. Too late to save a once mighty race from extinction, and now only I remain. Only I and the Zoids. And though my people created the Zoids, I have no power to control them. For the war machines have become the living embodiment of the Zoidarian thirst for combat, with lives and wills of their own. They exist only to fight, to ensure that their heroic combat lasts for all eternity. Now I stand on the sand-blasted surface of a world I used to call home, high on a rock, scanning the horizon for some sign of movement, knowing that out there, behind the sand clouds, lurk the deadliest war machines in the universe. It begins!
The empire's capital city brought low. To exile and emperor Celebus goes. Second Celebus war comes to a close. Within TAC 2422, Celebus invasion ignites war anew. From across the ocean, the new Zoids come. With Kylos help they beat the battle drum. Gorhecks, Stegosaurus, medium Zoid. Gorhecks, electronic spine radar void. Gorhecks, the cybernetic dinosaur. Gorhecks, brings a new era of Zoid war. Gorhecks, Stegosaurus, medium Zoid. Gorhecks, electronic spine radar void. Gorhecks, cybernetic dinosaur. Gorhecks, brings a new era of Zoid war. The third Celebus war on planet Z. We must create new Zoid technology. To scramble their radar, we build Gorhecks, the Stegosaurus Zoid with jamming techs. Forcing black and white steel with purple fins. Gorhecks reveals another zombie sins. Stegosaurus Zoid flexes his back plates, and so turns the battle tide for our fate. Gorhecks, Stegosaurus, medium Zoid. Gorhecks, electronic spine radar void. Gorhecks, the cybernetic dinosaur. Gorhecks, brings a new era of Zoid war. Gorhecks, Stegosaurus, medium Zoid. Gorhecks, electronic spine radar void. Gorhecks, cybernetic dinosaur. Gorhecks, brings a new era Army radar jamming foiled, dying the Tritons, electronic plans spoiled. Gorhecks stands on the battlefield most proud. Cybernetic Stegosaurus roars loud. Stegosaurus medium Zoid. Electronic spy radar void. Cybernetic dinosaur. Brings a new era of Zoid war. Stegosaurus, medium Zoid. Gorhecks, electronic spy radar void. Gorhecks, the cybernetic dinosaur. Gorhecks, brings a new era of Zoid war. Stegosaurus, medium Zoid. Electronic spy radar void. Cybernetic dinosaur. Gorhecks, brings a new era of Zoid war.
It is as if we both sense the approach of another, though no sound can be heard above the sighing winds of Zoidstar. Then the quiet is shattered by the arrival of one more powerful than Spider-Zoid. The machines charge at each other and lock in heroic combat, their computer brains seething with hatred, though they know not the reason for their enmity. It is a dance of devastation, a panorama of violence.
On planet Zoidstar, a cold Zoid war stands, following the sundering of our lands. Zoids are blue and red, shattered by the black. Monster machines crushed by Silverman's attack. Yet the Guardians press on and rebuild to replace the brave blue Zoids who were killed. But all goes wrong as the factories glitch. So come the renegade Zoids with kill switch. Cyberdon, Stegosaurus monster machine. Cyberdon, horses black and white, steel and mean. Cyberdon, renegade Zoid to the core. Cyberdon brings pain like never before. Flexing his bubbleback spine, he now flees. Cyberdon thirsty for the killing sprees. Renegade bounty will not be destroyed. The cybernetic Stegosaurus Zoid. But now fortune goes Cyberdon's way, as he and other renegades hold sway. In the canyon they fight Zoid against Zoid. Till one stands and all others are destroyed. Cyberdon, Stegosaurus monster machine. Cyberdon, horses black and white, steel and mean. Cyberdon, renegade Zoid to the core. Cyberdon brings pain like never before. Cyberdon, Stegosaurus monster machine. Cyberdon, horses black and white, steel and mean. Cyberdon, renegade Zoid to the core. Cyberdon brings pain like never before. Now in war, Cyberdon meets his match. Tramadon, the Brachiosaurus catch. In one shot, Tramadon blows him away. So falls Cyberdon, first to die today. Cyberdon, Stegosaurus monster machine. Cyberdon, horses black and white, steel and mean. Cyberdon, renegade Zoid to the core. Cyberdon brings pain like never before. Cyberdon, Stegosaurus monster machine. Cyberdon, horses black and white, steel and mean. Cyberdon, renegade Zoid to the core. Cyberdon brings pain like never before.
It is the never-ending battle between red and blue Zoids. It has been waged for centuries. It rages still. with no end in sight.
I, the Namer, last of the Zoidarians, guardian of the names of power, keeper of the legend of heroic combat, have spoken.